Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Bright Funders Talk at Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. Each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I'm your host, Barry, and today we're lucky enough to have an amazing guest joining us, Paul Christie, CEO at Tachmed. Hello, Paul. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Barry. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. We know you're busy, but for those people who don't know anything about you or your company, could you just give us a little bit of introduction?
Sure. So I started Tachmed 7 years ago, and the mission was very simply to make healthcare more affordable, more accessible to everybody. And we thought we would start by developing new diagnostics that would generate precise real-time health data and drive the next generation of online or virtual care. So, there's always been a shortage of doctors, always been a shortage of healthcare professionals, and there's always been a shortage of data. So if we solve the data problem, maybe we can help create some virtual assistants for those overworked clinicians.
What actually led up to your journey becoming CEO of Tachmed? Was it something that you knew you wanted to be a CEO? You knew you wanted to start a company, or was it more happenstance?
I'd always been always wanted to run a company, didn't know what that would be. My career path went from being an aspirational lawyer to uh, joining banking and working capital markets. And that was a very entrepreneurial environment that was very fast paced. So, in many ways, it lent itself rather well to people who wanted to develop leadership in new areas of business. Running a company is a very different discipline, of course, from just running a product. And you learn the difference very quickly in a banking environment. And then my career took me through setting up hedge funds, being part of hedge fund and alternative investment teams. Again, balancing running a business with developing interesting products or product strategies which are designed to make returns for investors. So really, all very symbiotic.
How did your experiences when you were younger, when you were going through finance, when you wanted to become an aspirational lawyer, what skills did you acquire during that time that helps you today with innovating in healthcare?
Listen more than you speak.
I feel like I shouldn't say anything at that point, but you caught me in a
It's
trap.
something that it's like you're always practicing that because in some way you're always trying to sell what you're doing,
Yeah.
but you've got to learn when to listen. I think that's the biggest skill that you pick up mostly through experience and getting it wrong a lot.
Yeah. I think that's definitely my weakness is I talk too much, as anyone will know who watches this, definitely talking too much. Okay, so there
Quite
was a
good for a broadcaster, though, isn't it?
yes, it's definitely better than being shy, definitely. So what was the big problem that you were looking to solve in terms of like healthcare delivery and patient monitoring?
Access. That really was it. Access means availability of qualified clinicians. It means affordability. So, I was very lucky enough to be part of a very, I suppose, innovative group of people that set up a private equity business in Africa. And you can see in a frontier or emerging market like that just how important health is, but how inaccessible it is, and the weight of having to pay for healthcare out of pocket in those kind of markets, the absence of affordable health insurance products, and the risk involved in managing basic things like diagnostics. Here in the UK, US, and Europe, it's very easy to go to a hospital out as an outpatient, have blood drawn, and get tests done. That's an incredibly expensive and laborious thing to do, and it requires a very safe environment to do that. That's not always possible in emerging markets. So,
Yeah.
you know, I identified the absence of real time at scale health data. But a large reason for that, or a significant reason for that, a large problem was the inability to get diagnostic results from patients. And so we set about trying to sort of solve that problem. Here was the patient, here was the payer, in between all the different providers, but it's not so easy to put them all together.
Yeah. So who is like Tachmed specifically designed for? Who are your customer base? Who are your stakeholders?
The patients, always the patients. We're developing a system. We've developed a system that generates patient data, which is the patient's data. But that data can be used to make reimbursement more affordable. It can be used to drive and automate provider systems and services much more efficiently. And that will always serve the patient first and foremost by optimizing decision making and ultimately improving their outcomes. So, our goal was to get patients to trust the system that they could put their data into and would enable them to inform their service providers as well as they could so that they could serve their health needs better.
Do people sometimes have like misconceptions about what remote patient monitoring and digital health adoption actually mean?
I think the biggest is that remote patient servicing would be inferior to seeing a doctor in person.
Mm.
At the front line, where diagnostics can make the biggest impact, getting people into the system right at the start of their journey, that could be more efficient. It can have a far lower risk of getting diagnosis wrong by using cutting edge technology. And the biggest risk of all is not having enough in person doctor's appointments that people can't get in to see a doctor. So you've got a waiting. I was really interested in a comment by the CEO of Spire Healthcare that I saw at a London Stock Exchange event a couple of years ago. And he was saying that if you looked at the waiting list for the NHS, the majority of people on there had not had their first diagnosis yet. So those people know they're sick, they're waiting for a diagnosis. And whilst they're waiting for that result, they're not getting healthier.
Yeah.
So the quicker you can get them into, at the widest mouth of the funnel, if it's a Tachmed, which is the first screen they get, at least they've got some kind of data they can share online with a health professional. Doesn't even have to be a doctor. It can be someone that at least knows where to point them so that decisions can be made to improve their health as quickly as possible. And that just by the simple process of getting them into the system
Mm.
will improve their outcome.
What does like successful adoption of Tachmed actually look like if you look at like in terms of like healthcare organization?
That's really simple. It's as ubiquitous as the iPhone. Everybody's got one. Everybody's testing. Everybody's got a dashboard of their health data. And with that data, you can drive AI models to provide insights and recommendations and even services that allow them to quickly, easily, and most importantly, affordably tweak the way they live their life so they stay healthier for longer. And
Do
if
you
they're
think
sick, they get seen by a doctor quicker.
do you think people are reluctant? Do you see like certain demographics are more reluctant to take up like embracing technology and healthcare together? Because I'm quite old, as we said, we started talking at the start of before the podcast. Like I'm quite
Yeah.
old. I'm very reluctant to adopt new technologies. I say talking on the podcast, so maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite, but generally I am. Whereas I think the
Yeah.
younger people are much more happy to go and go out into the environment with adoption of new technology. Would you say that's correct in your experience?
I think it is. I think that there's a nice balance to be had to build trust in new systems by delivering it alongside traditional channels. So you may, a lot of older people or some other people in different communities may prefer to have someone delivering new technology that can explain it to them, that can show them how to use it, that they don't have to go online. But that said, you talk about age. Age is not the limiter here. In Kenya, 99% of the population bank online. So you're talking about 80-year-olds that were banking using mobile phones before most people in the UK were even downloading the apps. So, Africa has been a source of reverse innovation, and we could look to that as models of community assistance, people going out there showing different communities how to use the app, how to use the technologies, building confidence, building trust. And those same people are turning up and saying, have you taken your medicine? Have you got your prescription filled yet? And we can build on those community-centered models of digital healthcare that don't just rely on videos and online streaming, but can actually bring people to people's doors. I like that.
It sounds really good. I think that because I'm a Brit, I probably have a very negative perception of the NHS. Maybe that's a very accurate perception. Maybe it's an inaccurate one. But
I hope you're not saying that's cultural. I mean, we're very innovative nationality, but
I think like maybe we don't appreciate what we have. I suppose you have that luxury of having been able to go to different places and actually see the pros and cons and see the stereotypes, see the misconceptions and what the actual situation actually is. Are there any trends at the moment that you're seeing in digital healthcare that you're really excited about right now?
there's a huge amount of energy across the bandwidth, across the spectrum for digital health. It's not just diagnostics, there are other devices, there are therapeutics, there are all kinds of behavioral health applications that you're seeing. And I think people are really engaged. So I think the trend is the level of engagement we're getting from making sure the patient voice informs from the front line the development of all these services. I also think that it bridges national boundaries, crosses national boundaries. So, I think the trend is that internationalization. When you look at geopolitics as it is at the moment, people searching online for new technologies, new ideas to manage their health are not dictated to by those geopolitical divisions that we're seeing now. So, at a time when, and we're of an age we grew up with globalization being that front and foremost philosophy for economic growth. I like to think that the healthcare or the wellness industry is traversing a lot of national barriers that are emerging in more modern times.
Do you think healthcare systems are like moving fast enough to adopt technology? It feels like maybe you're a better position than I am
Now
to
you're being
comment on
very
it.
controversial, aren't you?
I like to have a little bit of controversy, just a little bit though.
Well, they never will do because you rely on disruptive health systems and health system providers, health payers to really challenge the status quo. I think you've got to look to frontier and emerging markets to do just that. They're not held hostage by tertiary care systems that we've institutionalized in the developed world and the costs that go alongside them. They're able to move a bit more nimbly and be more cost effective. I would say that's true in Africa. This is not a new problem. We saw it with fintech. We had a system of banking establishments sitting on high streets, people used to going in, talking to their bank manager, writing physical checks. And I just referred to people in Africa picking up their mobile phone and using 5G to bank a decade before we were really comfortable doing it here. So I think we've been through different phases of digitization and creating digitized operating models for that. Unfortunately, when you've got a lot of elephants that are operating health systems according to models they developed 50 years ago, it takes time to inform those. But I think the biggest change over the last 5 years is the appetite to grasp that nettle. But we'll probably take another decade to really get on top of that.
Yeah. How do you see like AI becoming involved in helping transforming patient monitoring, maybe like over the next 5 years?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So AI is incredible. It has tremendous potential, but it needs data.
Mm.
And that's where Tachmed is finally being seen for what it is, the the platform that can generate authenticated, precise, and frequent patient data. Now, if you get enough people using the system, the weight of that data, the frequency and the precision is going to enable those models to train or to train those models to develop new applications that will finally make an impact. but that's going to take time.
Do you feel like everyone's rushing to try and get AI into the system without even realizing if there's a benefit to it? Is it like I don't know, the dot-com boom that we had, where everyone was just trying to do something with it to try and make it work?
I genuinely don't think it's like the dot-com boom.
No.
I do think there is enthusiasm driven by trends, by everybody trying to get on the bandwagon without understanding what it is. And we're all catching up to some extent with the people writing the models and finding out how what the results of stress testing those models and what the limits are. I don't think it's a fad. I think it has tremendous potential, but I think as human beings, we're expected to solve problems in a very short time frame. And just like everything else, we're getting the time frames wrong for those reference points. And we've got to start looking at maybe a generational time frame for AI to really make the impact that we all aspire it to have.
Regulation and innovation, I suppose I would see them as two kind of competing ideologies. Maybe you would think differently. Do you feel that you've struck the right balance between innovation and like regulation? Do you feel that you're a bit hamstrung? What's your thoughts just generally?
Depends where you are. If I look at the EU, you've got a very fragmented regulatory regime there. I think that, and this is just my opinion, but it's overwhelmed with the intellectualization of policy making and the bureaucracy that comes with it. And I think it will restrict the impact of innovation within the EU. Regulation has a role to safeguard the population, but again, you've got to strike the right balance. In the UK, I think they're trying to find a happy medium. So if you look westwards towards the FDA, I think the FDA has been there a long time. It's going through some changes at the moment, but overall, the people there are highly professional, highly educated, highly experienced. And I think they're adopting a very pragmatic approach to recharacterizing software as a medical device within the software regulatory regime, looking at data and how that is managed and regulated and the value of it in those services, and looking at device pharmaceutical. It's a very broad arena. It's very complicated. It requires a huge amount of expertise. But I, for one, think the FDA is striking the right balance. Not perfect, but I think the UK in the middle has a really big challenge to get its regulatory approach right across data management, data privacy, and the role of data in software, and specifically software as a medical device, and at the same time regulating the medical device therapeutics and other diagnostic arenas. So again, I wonder if it is at this moment in time sufficiently resourced to be able to do that.
This next question might also be limited by geography. You talked about America there, and I'm just thinking of like entrepreneurship and having the right entrepreneurial environment. Do you think that the UK, Europe, US are on equal footing? I think maybe I know the answer to this question already, but I want you to answer it in terms of entrepreneurial environment.
The UK has incredible potential, but I mean, certainly in the moment, if you compare entrepreneurship, we have a big entrepreneurial community. Everybody's trying to do something. Whether they feel particularly well supported or resourced, I don't know. But when you go to the US, by comparison, you feel it's on another level of energy, reception, resource. And I think the overriding aspect is, or element of it, is risk taking. Even when you look at the investment community, VCs over there, it sounds a bit anecdotal, but for every 100 investments they invest, they expect 99 to fail, but the one that succeeds will succeed big. VCs here expect 99 to be successful. It's unrealistic. It's not going to work. So there is a fundamental mindset difference. And I look at the wave of British entrepreneurs that go to the States to prove their mettle, be successful, and come back and get an audience. And until that changes, you're always going to say that the US has a inherently entrepreneurial culture, and the UK does not.
Yes, that's what I hear. So that's the answer that I expected. It's a shame. Maybe we can change that. Maybe there are people out there watching this who can go about helping to change that. Let's see. In terms of like yourself in healthcare, I imagine you've got like different groups. You've got clinicians, patients, partners. Do you find their needs to be in conflict with another? Are they complementary? And how do you go about building trust with each of those particular groups?
Well, first of all, they all come together under the heading of customers. So they're all parts of the same value chain. And we built Tachmed with a number of user stories, number of use cases that cover all those people. They're part of our community. And the value of our data is based on the integrity of those relationships. So they all need to trust Tachmed. So none of them are in competition with each other. Everybody's looking for ways to provide better services, better data, and embrace new concepts like AI. So if we can support all of that, be part of their ecosystem, we can be good contributors, good stewards, we can be good partners, and ultimately they can be great customers of ours. So I think we're building a whole new community of people who are involved in our success.
I love that answer. Really, really like that one. We're just coming slightly towards the end. So I've got two more questions for you, if I may, Paul, before I let you go. What does success look like to you?
Everybody's using Tachmed. Everybody's benefiting from great data, driving great services, great applications, getting better value for the money they're spending on their health, the time they're spending monitoring their health, living longer, having a better quality life. Tachmed at the heart of it. Everybody trusts Tachmed.
Again, a great answer. And the final one, obviously you've been very successful in your life. Your achievements prove that. For someone who's starting up a company by themselves for the first time, entrepreneur, maybe a little bit insecure, maybe not knowing exactly where to go, what would be the best advice that you would give someone when they first start out?
I've learned it the hard way. It's really simple. Think of building a company like building a house. You wouldn't build a house without putting the plumbing in and putting good foundations down. So good financial managers, good lawyers, good people around you, get the foundations right. Make sure that you put quality over quantity, and don't rush it. You will make mistakes. Build your house in a way so that you can rectify them quickly. It's always challenging to fund the building of your house completely from the beginning. That's one of the most kind of ironic positions to be in as a business owner and a business developer, is that if you're building a complex business like this, you have to do it incrementally. So make sure that you forward plan as much as possible. And when you're raising money, raise more than you think you need, because there will always be market shocks and you will always be running to the end of your budget. And it will help you to retain more hair than I have if you plan better than I did.
Paul, that's great advice. Thank you for sharing it with us. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you for having me on. I'm flattered and really enjoyed being here. Thank you.
The pleasure is all ours. That's Paul Christie, CEO at Tachmed.